The kindest stories from Overheard were voiced by Max Post. I have a friend. Greenpeace is resting next to her. And everyone has long been accustomed to her great pity for all living beings. For example, even to the locusts, which she defended last summer. Being scared with your boyfriend so that he doesn't touch them with his feet, otherwise they will become disabled. I also tried to understand her somehow, when a fly lived in her room, almost a family member, for God's sake. But recently she has surpassed herself. I ask what she's doing, and she said, "Yes, I can't get rid of moths in any way." I felt sorry for one, but a lot of them got divorced. All the clothes were eaten. Once I brought home a water shepherd from the street. This is a bird from the crane family. A wild bird with long legs. No one in the family was even surprised by this. I brought it into the apartment, and he lived with us for a while. They were not surprised, because she had already brought 2 jerboa snails to the apartment. Her boyfriend's cat constantly fit in with friends. And a few years before that, she brought home her grandmother from the street, who had nowhere to spend the night, since it was already dark outside, and she was late for the car. A minibus out of town. I lived in the village. In the 2nd grade, I went home after school. It was evening, just as the cows were returning from the pasture. They grazed themselves, just opened the gate. We stomp quietly along the fence, and then a mongrel jumps out at me. Of those who strive to bite my leg, I started waving my hands with a fool. The dog went berserk. I hear thump thump and move from behind. Some strange cow runs straight at the dog with horns. Terrified, she squeezed back under the fence. Of course, I was pretty freaked out, but I was very grateful. The work has a colleague retired, sweetest and kindest grandpa. He has a favorite song. Once I noticed that he was strangely listening to her in fragments and writing something rapidly. I realized that he was trying to write down the lyrics of the song. I quickly found it on the internet, printed it out, and put it on his desk. There was no limit to his delight, and I almost burst into tears. As a child, my brother and I were attacked by a stray dog when we were playing on the playground. I was lying in the snow and trying to fight off the dog, and my brother was calling for help. But people were just passing by. We were saved by a man who hit a dog with a package, thereby scaring it away. I'll never forget it. After all, even among indifferent people, there is at least one man with a package. It was when I was 18 years old, when I passed my license for the 2nd time. I was so nervous that I failed another attempt, confused the stops, and got into minibus heading in the wrong direction. The driver reached the end, all the passengers got off, and I sit. He says, "Ultimate, come out." From the stress I experienced and the accumulated resentment against fate, I burst into tears right there, and began to talk confusingly about my unsuccessful day. He said, "Okay, let's go." He fed me lunch and drove me home. I will never forget the good. Since childhood, she has lived the life of the daughter of rich parents. One day, returning home from another party, I saw children picking up small change from the floor, and rejoicing when they came across a large penny. They were collecting for themselves a loaf of bread. I went to the store and bought 2 bags of groceries, gave them. Now I am a volunteer, studying to become a clinical psychologist. My goal is to help people, morally, financially, as soon as I can. I'm working. I am grateful to that day. I flew to Tomsk on a business trip. A few hours before check-in at the hotel, I go to a store nearby to buy something for breakfast. At the exit I meet a homeless man. He, as it usually happens, asks for 100 for food. Knowing what kind of food it usually is, I say, "I will not give money. Let's go to the store, I'll buy as much food as you want." We go in, the homeless man modestly chooses a cheburek and a couple of yogurts. We go out with purchases, he begins to thank. I look, crying. And so we stood together with a homeless man at 7 in the morning near the grocery store. Feelings were exchanged. I was in the hospital, I had an operation on my knee. I was struck by the nurse. I was very cold, everything was shaking. I was covered up, but my arm with the 4 was not under the blanket, and literally turned blue from the cold. And the nurse poured hot water into the glove, made a hot water bottle, and put it in my hand. Such a feeling of happiness came over me that we still have such people in medicine. Moreover, this is a free operation. I am very grateful to her for her support. A 30-year-old girl. Problems with alcohol to such an extent that she started the apartment. A neighbor from above complained of a terrible stench. At first I lied that it wasn't about my apartment, but then I went up to her and honestly confessed everything. I'm waiting for cleaning with full disinfection. My neighbor turned out to be a wonderful woman, did not condemn, asked about everything, and offered to walk in the evenings with her dog. I think I believe in humanity again. Once I stood on the balcony and watched everyone. And suddenly, one guy ran a red light, hit a dog and left. We are a family ran and began to help. A huge fighting dog with us. Another 15 people came to help him. 2 girls were with bags on their heads, wearing makeup. And one man in his underpants ran. A vet drove by on a motorcycle and agreed to help for free. But the dog had to be brought somehow. An unknown man also stopped on an old vase. When I was little, my family and I went on vacation to the country with our pets. Among them was a very loyal and intelligent dog. Her name was Mineka. My older sister and I were swimming in the pool, and suddenly she started tickling me. I started screaming and choking. Seeing this, Manya, who was very much afraid of water, ran away and jumped into the water, and swam to save me. After this incident, I made her medals from cardboard, and realized that she would never give and save in any situation. I live 9,000 kilometers away from my family. My cat had an operation. 2 big kittens could not give birth. It is difficult to move away from anesthesia. I asked my parents how they were going to sleep. Literally, we're going to sleep. They wrapped it up with a soft cloth and duct tape, laid it on the bed between us. My golden ones. I had a chance to dry a sparrow chick that had fallen into a puddle under a table lamp. I'm just soaked to the skin. He behaved submissively and gratefully, as if he understood what was happening. On the same day, when he dried off, it was time to return to his own. And how happy they were to see him. They chirped incessantly. Today, walking in nature, I found someone's dog. She was exhausted. Her hind legs barely moved, her tongue stuck out, her mouth full of foam, breathing heavily and deeply. I poured her some water, and she gulped it greedily. I took her to a shelter, raised the whole internet in search of her. The owner wrote closer to night. Not a word of thanks, just claims that I took her to a shelter that is too far away. And anyway, his dog just went out for a walk. I'm sorry for the dog, I'm afraid he won't last long with such an owner. I have not believed in people since I was 10 years old, and in a good person. Human attitude. But I will never forget the woman who, along with me, frantically searched all over the bus cabin. Accidentally bounced a pad off my vacuum headphones. Thank you. I hitchhiked to uni. One day I was late for couples and decided, alone, to get into an expensive car. The driver started a conversation. She told me that she was a student of one of the universities, studying for so-and-so, started asking about problems in her studies. And I complained without a second thought to the teacher, who does not accept the course. It got weird when a guy took me straight to the university. And they let him into the parking lot. Inquired my teacher name and group number. A couple of days later, I got a credit. It turned out that the rector gave me a lift. I was 16 years old. I lived for a year in a social group, like an orphanage for children from disadvantaged families. Once I took a pension from my mother so that she would not drink it at once. I wanted to give her a little, but on the same day this money was stolen from me, in a social group. I cried all day long. It was bitter and insulting that the mother left without money, and she got fucked up. The police questioned everyone, but there was nothing. Nothing was found. A month later, a young investigator, Xenia, came up to me and handed me the money. I knew they were hers. I was about 6 years old. My parents left me at home alone, and I was terribly afraid to stay on my own. I don't remember how much time passed then, but I was afraid and started cry. It occurred to me to call the police and tell them what to do. My parents have been gone for a long time. In response, I received in such a very kind voice, "Don't worry, don't cry. They'll be here soon. When they come, you call me." All right. We were talking about something else and the parents came. Since I was very scared, I never called this uncle back. If I see a sad, tired, puzzled person on the street or in transport, I come up and say, "You look so good." I'm just looking and admiring. The reaction is different, but people always smile after that. Regardless of gender and age, I get such a buzz from it, and I smile myself. When I was 18-19 years old, a car sprayed me in the spring. FIFA gets out of the car, also fashionable, comes up to me, and starts wiping my raincoat with a napkin. I'm in shock. We got to talking. She offered to take me home. I agreed. It's been 5 years. And she's my best friend. About 12 years ago, relatives passed through our city by train, parking 30 minutes. And we have already begun to say goodbye to them. 2 minutes before sending, we walked past their window, waved to them. As you can see, the station has a new boyfriend and screams out for him to wait. And the train has already started little by little. And he's on crutches with one leg moving so slowly towards him. Then suddenly 2 guys pick him up by the arms and run to this train. During the movement of the train, they managed to pass this guy to the conductor. We all stood rooted to the spot and watched. I still remember how the guys helped him. Once rode a night train sitting on the ground. It's uncomfortable, my whole body hurts, and then someone opened the window. It got cold. Through a dream, I remember how my neighbor, a nice adult guy, covered me with my jacket and went to close the window. And I didn't have time to get to know him because I was sleeping at night, and when I woke up, he was gone. Every morning I walk past the church, and every morning there is the same guy standing there. Whether it's cold, windy, or raining, it's standing. I try not to give money to anyone because I believe that a person is able to earn money by himself. This guy wishes all passersby a good morning and a bunch of good words. I recently had cash, which happens extremely rarely. He went to meet me, but I didn't leave, and asked what makes him stand here every morning. He does not look like a drunkard or a homeless person. He has a very clean and kind look. He said that every morning he collects money for large, dysfunctional families, and every day he gives about 1,000 rubles to such a family. I'm still coming away from a strange feeling. He does it sincerely, without feeling sorry for himself, because he knows that children are waiting for him there, who have nothing to hope for. I know you can't help everyone, but this guy just does it. For some reason, I felt ashamed of myself. Recently, I found a card for traveling in the subway. It turned out to be about 1,000 rubles. And now, if I see a child or elderly people, I pay for their travel with this card. After all, I can't return the card to the owner, but I don't want to spend it myself. I was 7-9 years old then. Let's go to fast food with mom. I'm eating my bun with a cutlet, and suddenly a piece gets across my throat. In the literal sense of the word, I can't breathe, I can't swallow. Mom looks up at me and immediately understands everything. Starts screaming for help. There was a man sitting behind me. He jumped up to me in a second, and, without asking a single question, abruptly bends me down, thereby helping the piece to free its throat. And then, as if nothing had happened, he departs. Thank you, my guardian angel. Someone loves dogs, someone cats, and I adore my goats. They are affectionate, like cats, and love me like dogs. Loyal, smart, and how useful their milk is. When in a bad mood, I just go to them and stroke their goats, scratching behind the ear, talking with them. They look with their square pupils, and as if everything is clear. They are healthy and cheerful animals, fawning with their long muzzles. Just to think, I took them from the owner half dead, and now they are treating our whole family with their milk. Once in my childhood, there was a big flood. There was a fairly large poultry farm, not far from our village. This very farm was flooded. The workers, of course, had time to be evacuated, but the chickens were less lucky. We fished poor chickens from the river, all over the street, who could do what, who with a fishing rod, who with a stick, who with nets. But every neighbor since then has had its own poultry farm, and chicken eggs. I came home to practice in my hometown, and was outraged that there was only garbage around. I woke up in the morning, took the bags and went to collect bottles, wrappers and cabinets. It's not enough that passersby asked me how much I was paid, and why I was collecting, if they were littering anyway. But I was finished off by men who threw 2 bottles at my feet, and said that the young one would pick up. I collected 8 bags, and went home in tears. As a child, I came to a friend's dacha. There was no dacha of his own. We had a good time, walked everywhere, we'll go to the river, and we'll wander into the forest. Walking in the forest, we found a small hedgehog. He just lay there, not curled up into a ball. I picked him up, he was breathing, but I noticed that the paw was leaving. I thought broken. We took him to the dacha. There, an aunt of a friend held him, she was a veterinarian. And at the dacha, there was everything that was needed. In general, since then, we have had a forest friend who visits us. I worked as a food delivery service operator at one time. I know that this is quite a hard job, So when I call the food delivery or taxi service, I try to talk to the operator as friendly as possible. Most often, the girls respond in kind. Even by the voice, you can hear that they are smiling. One day I was resting in the village. We went for a walk in the field, and there was a pond that dried up. Only a puddle remained. Look, the puddle is moving. We approach, and there is a full puddle of fish, suffocating, splashing in the mud. We quickly ran 4 buckets of water. About 8 buckets of fish were transferred to a nearby large lake. Then the fish jumped and thanked us. My mother gave it to me a long time ago. The phone for a March 8th is good, expensive, and I lost it after 2 days. It was so insulting and embarrassing in front of my mother. Then my boyfriend bought me exactly the same one, told me not to upset my mom. It's still our secret with him. True happiness for me is attributed to the trash old things in a bag with the inscription clothes, and the next day, to see a homeless woman in her blouse. I remember in 2000, I was an ugly girl of 15 years old. My classmates have had boyfriends for a long time, and I suffered that no one was ever interested in me. In the same summer, I took out the garbage from the house early in the morning. And from a passing car, a guy about 25 years old shouted loudly, "Beauty, you are so beautiful." And he put so much soul into his voice and smile. Self-esteem has skyrocketed forever. And in the mirror, when I got home, I saw a pretty girl. I do not know who he is, but thank him very much. My grandmother stopped me on the street, asked for change, said that for bread. I usually say in such cases that there is no cash. There are a lot of professional beggars in Moscow, you can't get enough of them all. But then there was 100 rubles in my wallet. I gave it away. Grandma took it, thanked me warmly, and then, when I was already gone, she shouted after me, "My daughter, but she's not hungry." And it was so sincerely said, it made me cry. Night, rain, we go in a taxi. We are sitting in the back seat with a young man. And suddenly, a plaintive meowing sounds from the front seat. The taxi driver told us that the previous pretty drunk passenger forgot a small Persian tail in the car. Taken away. My father was hospitalized with a stroke. One doctor treated me for a long time. I took great care of him, worried about him. In short, the doctor is from God. It's okay. My father recovered and decided to thank him. Word for word, we got to talking, and he told the story of how he became a doctor. It turns out that his brother was very ill. And the family is big, there is little money, the town is small, there were no specialists. And he decided to study to be a neurologist, so he became a doctor. And he cured his brother, and he treats the others. We were walking with my wife and little daughter in the woods. We saw an old Toyota trying to get out of a dirty hole on a forest road. Behind the wheel, the young kid was clearly panicking. I stripped down to my underpants to save my clothes. The guy gazed, I pushed, covered with a layer of dirt. My wife and daughter dragged firewood and shoved it under the wheels. Pushed out. Washed away with the dirt in a nearby puddle. The guy drove us to the entrance. We were all dirty, but happy, and the driver was totally freaking out. When I see people who have a hard physical and low-paid job, I say loudly to my daughter something like this. My aunt will sweep, and then the street will be clean. Here's the uncle laying out the track, then it will be beautiful. We can walk here. The boxes are heavy, and therefore, we will be able to buy fresh bread and so on. It seems like a trifle, but people are always very encouraged that someone sees and appreciates their work. There is always a smile on their faces. When I was 10 years old, we went with my mother and sister. The sea. The money was only on the essentials, and I've loved dried fish, and constantly begged my mother to buy it. One day I felt bad, and I stayed at the hotel. At lunch, Mom came back with a huge bag of fish. Some men heard me begging my mom. And after they caught the fish, they gave it to her. And the next day we also had a ticket for 21 days, so we managed to dry it. I've never eaten such delicious fish in my life. I work in a dental clinic. I am studying in parallel, but there is still some physics. Financial difficulties. Caries appeared on several central teeth. The free polyclinic refused to treat them because it would be extremely unsightly. Yes, and other reasons were given. And it is very urgent to correct dental defects, as I am being treated by an orthodontist. Desperate. Since there is practically no money, and it is inconvenient to ask for a loan or for free, because I have been working recently. For some reason, I approached a guy at work who doesn't really have me. Always takes money to the maximum, does not concede a penny. I decided to find out how much it would cost. He did not give a clear answer. Literally the same day, I stayed late in the evening to cure my teeth. I put the best anesthesia, good fillings. He was constantly interested in my condition. Carefully and for a long time, I made several teeth. Everything was done at the highest level. I already imagined how he would tell me the cosmic sum. And I will ask you to reset the price or give me the opportunity to pay in installments. I get up, ask the price, and he answers that he did everything for me for free. 7 years ago, I came home late. It's a long way to go. I paid attention tipsy men. I ran across the road. I'm walking on the other side. They also crossed over. I'm back, and they're after me. The distance between us is shrinking. There's a patrol coming up. There's a guy from there. Are you planning to run from them for a long time? Sit down. I would never get in a car, even to the police. But then I imagined that if there is an alternative, it would be better if it were the cops. Back in the days when I was at school, I went to a tutor. I returned home late at night, as I was wasting time on the road. He lived in an area that only one route in the city reaches. Wait for the bus at a later time long, but in winter so do. In general, they walk every other time, and have to stand in the cold for a long time. But quite often a woman working in a taxi drove through this area, who picked up standing people from stops, and took them home for the price of travel, as in a minibus. Nastic is a huge man. Scarred face, late in the park. It's scary. And he caught up and said, "Don't be afraid, I'm not after your soul." He smiled, overtook, and disappeared around the corner. And then I was attacked. It was a shame to call for help. I was crying quietly. That man came back and threw a maniac from a tree. He walked me home and left. Then I met him at our fitness center. The mastodon is old, a kind of bandit from the 90s. Everyone is afraid of him, but I just smile. And he winks. They didn't say a word, but I know now that there are nights, only married ones. My son was 16. He began to notice that he was hiding something. Locking himself in a room, calling someone in a whisper. Taking something out of the house under his clothes, coming with friends, and closing himself in the room again. They laugh loudly, and when I approach the door, they quiet down and quickly hide something. I was exhausted. I didn't know what to think. One day he left, and I opened the room and examined it. I didn't find anything suspicious. And after a while, my son confessed that he had got a kitten, found it on the street, and was very afraid that I would be against it. I was in a hurry to study one day. The wallet is in the bag. I put 50 rubles in my pocket to the phone with a piece of paper. While I was walking to the bus stop, pulling out my phone, I dropped the money unnoticed. I noticed it already on the bus. Well, okay, I take out my wallet, and there's only a little change for a ruble. 50 and 10 kopecks. The fare costs 20 rubles. I begin to scold the little things and pray that it will be enough. Putting the coins in my hand, I realize that I don't have enough for this bus. I'm starting to get upset, and people are standing around tightly, and suddenly 2 tens fall into my hand. 1995. Many people had hard times. We are, to say the least, was on the verge of bedstone. Dad went to work. It was not 6 months. The money for accommodation has run out. My mother and I went to the apartments of our city, asked for bread. Returning home empty-handed. My mother sat down at the entrance in impotence, and began to cry. I passed by an elderly couple. They found out from us what had happened, called us to their place, fed us. Dad soon arrived, and we constantly went to them and cleaned, washed, took care of, bought groceries. Thanks to them. One day I came to the clinic to pay for a service. At the next cash register, the girls voiced the amount of about 3,000. I immediately noticed her confusion. She rummaged in her bag, took out the money. She counted it and realized with horror that she was missing. And the girl in general drooped and turned pale. I asked her how much she was missing, and her eyes bulged. I didn't expect it, apparently. He says a lot, 500 rubles. Without hesitation, I gave it to her. It's been a long time since I've seen such grateful eyes. She asked for my number and returned everything. One day in 2000 to 2003, when I was in the 1st or 2nd grade, I stumbled on the way home and hit my knee very hard. She tore her thick tights, under which blood oozed like a river. Saved me some guy who saw. On the ground near a store where people walk in droves. He picked me up and carried me to his car. He treated my wound, gave me water, calmed me down, and brought me home. I remember everything in detail, but his face is not. I don't give flowers, sweets, soft toys, jewelry to a girl. All this tripe, I give her checks. Checks for transferring money to one or another fund for helping sick children. Receipts for the purchase of feed or fillers for animal shelters. The girl is happy, and the money is spent more usefully. She worked as a waiter in a cafe for a long time after me. A wealthy man was courting. An unpleasant financial situation happened to me. There wasn't even enough money for food. After much thought, I turned to him and asked, "What should I do for 10,000? He replied, "Meet me at my place." I was shaking all over and went to him under the shave. I met him at the threshold, smiled, kissed him on the cheek, and silently shoved the envelope with the money, slamming the door. I walked out of the store into the parking lot. I look at an old, hunched granny leaning on my car with huge bags. I went up to the car, I asked what happened, and it wasn't enough for me. "Young man, give me a ride please. It's not far here." Granny can barely talk. I felt sorry for her. Immediately agreed to help, barely as she climbed into the car. While driving, she told me that she was very ill, and the sons live separately. She can barely walk, but she has to get groceries. She said she wouldn't pay the money. Of course, I immediately refused. We arrived. I brought her to the apartment. I came home, taking the jacket from the back seat, and there are 300 rubles. There is one dog living near my house. Well, how to live. Survives. Every morning and evening, I bring her something to eat so that she doesn't die with hunger. It is unclear what she is doing there. A neighbor told me that her elderly owner walked with her a few years ago, but he has not been seen for a long time. Now she's sitting alone. The dog is waiting for its owner, who has probably been dead for a long time. I took her home with me anyway. Now she lives with me. I was convinced in early childhood that kind people exist. I was 4 when my grandmother's house burned down. Everything burned down, absolutely everything. Grandmother miraculously did not suffer. The whole village was aware of what had happened. Grandmothers carried almost new things in bags every day. Some even left money in the mailbox. They helped to quickly restore the documents. Then they built a house for all the villages. I was on the bus, the heat, the traffic jam. I felt a cool breeze from behind. I thought it was already buggy. I turned around, and the girl was blowing at me and smiling. "Thank you, I feel better and more pleasant. There was an accident in front of us yesterday. Dad ran to get people out of the car. And when he pulled out the man, he asked for a key for 10, after which he took the kitten out of the car. And he stood there until the ambulance arrived, stroking the kitten. My husband kicked me out of the house. To wish him in what was. I'm standing on the street in only shorts and a t-shirt at -2. In general, a homeless man runs up to me, takes off his shirt, and hands it to me with the words, "Take it, it's not dirty. Just sweaty." I thought that there are no good people. Today I broke my arm, fell off my bike. When I got up from my knees, I saw a girl. She helped me up and brought me home. The girl's name is Masha, she's 7 years old, and I haven't even been 20 for a long time. A couple of months ago, I gave a cashier girl in a MacDick 3 tulips. Today I accidentally got into the same cashier to the same girl. There are 2 hamburgers in the package instead of 1. I went for an interview today. In the courtyard where there was an office, there lives a grandfather who accidentally locked himself in an apartment. He called me to open it from the outside. I helped him, but the company I wanted to get a job with turned out to be a scam. Always on public transport, imperceptibly putting his foot under the wheel of a baby carriage. If there is such a type of invisible hero standing nearby. Sleep well, kid, I'll keep watch. I'm standing in traffic, opened the windows, listening to Sting to the fullest. I feel someone watching. I turn my head. There's a guy standing on the sidewalk, looking at me. He saw me turn around and started dancing. Danced, smiled, waved, and went on. About a month ago, I lost my dog. I ran around the yards looking for her. I asked everyone if they had seen it. Everyone was looking at her like she was crazy. And I approached 3 non-Russian cleaners, asked, so they were looking for her together with me in the neighboring yards. I register passengers for flights. I always put beautiful guys and girls next to each other if they fly one by one. I choose by appearance. I like to think that the right people will get acquainted with each other. When I was going to school, I poured out all the little things to my grandmother at the subway. When I was driving back, I realized that there was not enough for the subway. I spent the night on the bench. I don't regret it at all, as I remember her eyes. I was on the train today. The road is only 3 hours. I didn't take the bedclothes. I fell asleep and was very cold in my sleep. I was already shaking. And then, I feel, it became warm. It was my traveling companion who went to get a blanket and covered me. Even 2 tears. No one has taken care of me like that for a long time. I really want to help people, treat them in real life, but I don't have such an opportunity. That is why in online games I play for the attending class. My entrance is being renovated. It is made by some Tajiks. Funny guys like that. They work 4 days. I don't even know when they have time to eat and sleep. Today I baked pies, poured tea, put everything on trays, and brought them. They arranged a Tajik tea party on the floor in the entrance. Once in the subway on the escalator, I put on a jacket. It's quite inconvenient to do this when people are crowding from all sides. So, watching my torment, a guy from behind helped me. He held it like a coat in the theater. It was incredibly pleasant and amazing. Near the subway I saw a granny who was selling lilies of the valley. The last bouquet remained, and the time was already around 23:00. With the last money I bought flowers from her and I say, "Everyone, run home, otherwise it's already late." She waved her hand with sad eyes. It turned out she didn't have a home. Already splintered. I'll buy her some food tomorrow. I was standing at the bus stop, waiting for the bus. A lot of people, and two unpleasant types are talking in their own language. Well, I think, as usual, they are discussing Pohapshina. And then a woman of the same non-Slavic appearance comes up to me and says, "Girl, I understand, I am them. And they want to steal your phone. Close the bag." "Thank you, woman. We were driving today with my mom in the car, got stuck in traffic, and then an ice cream van is attached to our side. Well, Mom, take it as a joke, and show it, like, give me an ice cream." So the guy took it, got out of the car, opened the door, took out ice cream, and treated us. I didn't take the money. Kind man. I was standing at the bus stop late in the evening. There is still no minibus. Well, just a terrible downpour begins. But there is no umbrella. I'm getting wet. It's cold to tears. Suddenly a convict-looking man approaches. I'm scared, you never know what's in his head. And he just opened the umbrella and held it over me for 20 minutes until the rain stopped. When I correspond with friends on contact, I write as I want, with errors and without punctuation marks. But when I correspond with my cousin, who is still in school, I try to write competently. I am preparing the future generation. Yesterday, I helped a strange grandmother withdraw money from an ATM, although I was in a hurry. And today I'm standing at the bus stop. It started to rain, heavy rain. I'm naturally without an umbrella. A strange woman suddenly comes up to me, opens an umbrella, and takes me to her shelter. "You're wet," he says. The good returns. Today I was traveling in a trollic, and at one stop a peasant came in with me, who had a crow with a broken wing in his hands. He stroked and soothed her all the way. He said that the veterinarian was lucky. She was sitting right in his palm, and didn't even move. A bachelor. A puppy howled under the doors all night. I left it for the night, got attached. The dog began to choke with coughing. It turned out to be an allergy to tobacco. As a result, I quit smoking. A gift from above. An elk ran across the road to one man in our village. He was very close, and there was nothing left for the man. All that remained was to make a choice, either shoot down the moose, or roll into a ditch. The car overturned 3 times. As a result, the car is not subject to repair. There are no scratches on the man. The moose is alive. I went to work in a taxi today at 6 a.m. She asked me to stop at a coffee shop. I thought it was awkward. At such an early hour, teased the taxi driver with tempting smells, and bought him coffee too. It's a trifle, but it's nice for both me and him. I work as a conductor in a trolleybus. When I go to collect money for travel, I carefully look at people. If you see needy people, do not take their money and walk by as if I didn't notice. I'm trying to do good in this way. Today, the institute ran up to me and cleaner to see if I have a cat under the cap of soda. He says he really wants to win a laptop and give it to his grandson. We decided to bring her such caps as a group. Once I was on the bus, there were no seats, I had to stand. Well then, I'm going. There is not inferior to place a man with words. Now you sit there and smile. If not, I'll kick you out. A fly is flying in the room, and everything is near the ear. Big, easy to kill. Take the newspaper. But I realized that it was a pity to kill. I opened the door and just chased her away without killing her. I saved the fly's life. Cool. At our entrance, in the concierge room, a Tajik Shukrat, in the common people, Sasha has been living for 10 years. Janitor, washes floors and elevator, carries food to grandmothers. The store puts money on the phone at the request. The whole entrance carries him all sorts of nishtaki. From food and clothes for his children, to footy and bicycles. Actually, the last 2 artifacts were given by my father. And so, after another summer trip home, Shukrat brought a handmade dagger to Dad. Funny, cheap, in patent leather feet. And on the blade, the inscription is empty for memory 2014. And I've never seen my father smile like that in my life. I bought a box of ice cream for the kids in the yard today. I have never seen such sincere joy in my life. Unusual. I always carry a small soft toy in my bag. And when I find myself next to or walking past a crying child, I hand him a little bear with a smile, and he stops crying. I am 30 years old, no children, no husband either. Today in the supermarket, I saw a guy who was shopping 2 carts of groceries at the checkout, gave everyone in the queue a chocolate bar. Compensation for waiting, so to speak. I like to go to the beach and shake fat in an open swimsuit, thereby increasing the self-esteem of girls who consider their figure bad. That's the kind of fat goodness I am. Today I went to the fireman to find out the way. So he said, "Yes, this is our patrimony." He put me in a fire truck with his crew and drove me to the place. You should have seen the faces of random passersby when I got out of the car impressively, and the fireman kindly gave me his hand. I realized that kind people work in pharmacies when the pharmacist offered water to wash down painkillers. There is a habit. I ask my friends to call, they say it is necessary to call. And I myself write all sorts of things in the calendar for the numbers ahead. Like everything is fine, I smile. Have a nice day. I hope that he enjoys such unexpected things. I always give way in minibuses to Tolstoy, because if the bus stops abruptly, many people will suffer. I feel like a superhero. Several times in my life I approached blind people, took them by the hand, escorted them to the place they needed, and told them about the world around them, about the little things around, about people. I let them touch my face so that they would get to know me. I was riding a trolleybus yesterday. We got into long traffic jam. The conductor: "Close your eyes, my good ones, we will stand for a long time, you can sleep, and I'll wake you up later." And everyone immediately relaxed and smiled. The best conductor in the world. For the last year, if I eat in fast food, I order a children's menu with a toy. I eat it, and I give the toy to children whose parents did not buy a children's kit. I really like to please children. Every time I exit the transport, I check the backs of those standing in front for the presence of any strings, hair and other things, and I don't hesitate to clean them up. I like to think that I help people to be beautiful. My brother is such a stern rocker in black clothes. When he rides a bike and sees a hand sticking out of the window of another car, puts a candy in it. I'm 20 years old. I work part-time as a cleaner in a huge supermarket. Recently, when I was washing a floor, my grandfather came up to me with the words, "Thank you for being clean. I know what kind of work it is. I've been mopping floors myself for 20 years, and bowed." How touched I was by his praise. And even more so a bow. I started crying. I'm going to the subway with my child, and I observe such a picture. A woman is sitting, decently dressed, and she is literally shaking from side to side from lack of sleep. An older man was sitting next to her. He invited the woman to lie down on his shoulder, and said that he would wake her up at the station she needed. I was traveling today in a tram at maximum speed. Suddenly he slows down sharply, and people almost fell forward. The driver got off the tram and walked in a few seconds later. Still, who, what, whom? She answers, "The kitten was sitting on the rails, she removed it." No one had any objections. As a child, my friends and I had such a hobby. We found stray cats and dogs, washed them, fed them, and then went home, knocked on unfamiliar apartments, and offered animals. And you know, they were often taken from us. Now I am a volunteer at a shelter for homeless animals. The investigator said, on the night of 31/1, he was on duty. Then someone starts breaking into the duty room. He opens it, and in front of him, with an almost toothless mouth, is a swollen homeless man with a bare torso. It's -30 outside, in the hands of a dirty and smelly jacket. Mumbles, "Help, friend." He launched it. He says it became a pity, he will freeze. Balm quilted jacket, carefully on the table, and there's a baby. A homeless man found him in the trash, took off his clothes, wrapped him up. I walked 2 kilometers. In this cold. They fed and watered that homeless man with the whole duty for a long time. The day before yesterday, I went to the bookstore while I was waiting for friends. I went to look at the textbooks on the specialty for the next year. I take one, and he's an expensive infection. I decided to look through it, see what we will study. And in it there is a bill of 1,000 rubles and a note. And then textbooks are expensive now. I bought, immensely grateful to this kind person. I ran to work in the morning, and the handle of the bag broke off. Somehow got into a crowded minibus, holding the bag. And suddenly a man sitting next to me takes my bag and offers to make it. I don't understand where he got the screwdriver from. And when he said that he could not see well without glasses, then from somewhere in the back seats, they also handed over glasses. And indeed, the bag was repaired. Before that, I was sure that in the morning in transport, people are only ready to kill. I'm taking the tram. On the contrary, schoolgirl sits with tears in her eyes. Of course, the majority do not care. Well, like me, actually, you never know what kind of vanilla problems this teenager has. But then a young man sat down next to her at the bus stop. I looked at her and asked what happened. The girl pulled out a notebook, in which the corner of my eye saw a fat deuce. It turned out that she couldn't figure out a topic in any way, and her mother would kill her for it. So this guy didn't get confused, told her to get out her textbooks, and, armed with a notebook and a pen, began to explain everything to her, that during the trip, she realized where she had made a mistake and corrected everything. Finally, they exchanged numbers. And I sat and looked at this couple, and I missed my stop. There was a girl in my son's class. She comes from a poor family. Her parents drank heavily. But she herself is smart, beautiful, talented. My other parents and I were all surprised by her abilities. And now it's time for institutions. The girl, of course, has no money. But after consulting, we decided that we would pay for her education. She enrolled, graduated with a red diploma, and, after thanking all of us, writing down the amount of the debt, went abroad. It's been 5 years. Yesterday, a decent amount of money came to my card, and the signature thank you. I was 19. I bought an old car for myself. I'm driving home for the first few hours. Night. Who knew that gasoline goes to the left, and the sensor shows incorrectly to the pile? I stood on a deserted highway. Money is just a trifle in an ashtray. The phone is almost empty. Ass. I didn't wait long, the guy helped. I took him to the gas station, gave him a canister and money for gasoline. Free of charge. Happy ending. After 6 years, I'm going under. On the same road on the side of the car with emergency lights, decided to stop and help. Yes, it was that kid. Helped him. I work at a fairly large enterprise. Most of my colleagues are simple hard workers men. About 6 months ago, I was knocked down at a bus stop by a drunk on the night. The result of overfishing for everything that is possible. Serious internal injuries, 15 days without consciousness between life and death. The issue of lack of blood for transfusion was catastrophically acute. At work, they quickly found out about my trouble. And these same hard workers, after heavy night shifts, friendly crowds for several days dragged to the point of blood donation, not forgetting to clarify that the blood is donated for our Dashinka. Recently, I finally came out of the hospital. I can hardly hold back the tears in my throat when I see the kind smiles of my heartfelt peasants. They saved me, it's theirs. A piece of me. It's an incredible feeling of closeness, seemingly by strangers. 3 years ago, near the subway, I saw a single father with a little son. He was talking on the phone about being made redundant and barely making ends meet. And I have a small company, things from customs. I do not breed on gazelles, and there was no driver. I offered it to him, he agreed. During the day, he delivered goods in a dedicated car with his son, and at night, he took a taxi on it. I didn't mind, I knew that he had a hard time with money. I helped him buy a car, strained friends. We are not close, but when I was hit by a car, only he gave money for the operation. A work colleague always dressed extremely colorfully. My favorite color is red. I combine the incongruous, for which I received an offensive nickname from the programmer Mardva. He is still to -3 girls, bullied her constantly joked back. Once I asked a colleague to take from a red folder of documents, which put her in a stupor. It turned out that she does not distinguish between several colors, but her daughter of 6 years. Neither her husband nor relatives helps her to disappear. Who would help in this case? Now my everyday starts with a Skype call. One day, on New Year's Eve, I went to the store. On the way, I saw a flash drive from the camera lying in the snow. I came home, looked at the photos. There was a young couple, and pictures from the wedding celebration. I immediately imagined myself in their place. I would be very upset. And I decided in that whatever was to find these people. There were practically no leads. At that time, the FS was resting compared to me. There were a lot of photos and one video. From the video, I realized that this is a married couple from Khabarovsk. I think how this flash drive turned out to be 10,000 kilometers away. And then I stumble upon one photo where a young man, a husband in a hockey uniform. And it was not at all clear which club he was in and what his last name was. And I started searching for all hockey clubs, photos of all hockey players, past and present, spending a lot of time on it. And then finally luck. According to one of the photos, I found common features with this hockey player guy who was on a flash drive. I began to compare them in more detail and realized that it was him. Many thanks to social networks, I found him and his wife. I was happy as a child, and it felt so good in my heart that these people will be happy now. I wrote to them. The hockey player's wife initially treated me with distrust and conducted a provocative test with me, later making sure that I was not a fan of her husband, but just a person who found their flash drive. It turned out that they moved from Khabarovsk to our city and signed a contract. They were so happy that there was a loss and were amazed at my abilities. We still communicate. Worked as a sales consultant. Sometimes people with special needs came. Colleagues did not want to work with them, and I always tried to attend, but not to focus on the characteristics of a person. The deaf woman silently, but with a smile, showed the goods, checked, typed the amount on the calculator, and showed it. There was a couple of blind people. I picked up the goods for them so that it was convenient. I let them feel it. I don't understand people who are afraid of other people's peculiarities. Anyone can find themselves in this situation. There are moments when you are in the right place at the right time. I was 10, resting in the village. I didn't know how to swim at that moment, and my grandmother didn't allow me to go far. And now, splashing knee-deep in a deeply dug quarry, I see how 20 meters from the shore, 2 boys began to sink on a homemade raft. I don't know what I was thinking about then and what helped me then, but somehow I swam to the rescue. I came home. I didn't say anything. The next day I was waiting for a cake and words of gratitude from the mother of the children. Would you have seen Grandma's eyes? My girlfriend for all our dates were quite large bags. I've always wondered what's out there. Once we said goodbye at the bus stop, and I forgot to give her the keys. I walk up to the bus stop. Look, she's talking to a homeless man, takes out a bag from her bag. So, there's water, wet wipes, a sandwich, and a printed number where they can help you. I'm freaking out. She looks like such a squeamish bitch. When asked why she didn't do it in front of me, she replied that she wasn't going to do it for show. When I was about 8 years old, there was a fire in our apartment. Of course, all the Barbies and Schmarbie burned down. None of my girlfriends in the yard even batted an eye. But there was a girl, Alice, from the 3rd entrance of the 5th floor. We weren't friends with her, she was new, and we didn't really accept her into our group. But after the fire, she brought me to her house and shared toys. They are still lying at my house, and I only now understand the kindness of the little girl's heart. Talked with a friend about relatives. In conversation, I said that his Aunt Sonia is not at all like the other brothers and sisters, who, by the way, are 7. To which he replied that she was not related to them by blood. His grandfather was returning from the war. At the railway station, I walked to my village. I saw a girl of about 6 years old, sitting by the road with a bundle in her arms. He asked where her parents were. She replied that she was an orphan, there was nowhere to go. Well, then let's go, you'll be my daughter, his grandfather said, and took her into his family. I was sitting at the train station, waiting for the train. A homeless man comes in, brought flowers, distributed them to all the employees, greeted the police by the hand, and began to go to bed. He was woken up by the station staff with the song Happy Birthday and a big cake. He is a former Soviet scientist and a teacher of one of the best universities, and at first I resettled in disgust. At the age of 11, she received a compression fracture of the spine. I spent a year in the hospital with children who came from all over Russia. They had no arms, legs, and they lay there for 6 months, did not see their relatives at home. Waited for the manufacture of prostheses. They were not like everyone else, not only physically, but also mentally. They were extraordinary children. They were so open, kind, responsive, always ready to help. And many, oddly enough, were abandoned by their parents because of their troubles. It doesn't matter if they were like that from birth or as a result of an accident. I haven't been home for 6 months, like many here. But unlike the others, my mother often came to see me, because we lived in this town. All the children from my ward were waiting for the arrival of my mother as their own. And my mom brought my dog, a small chocolate poodle, to the hospital. I dragged it in a sports bag to the 8th floor to the children's department. She went into our 8th local ward, propped the door with a chair, and let him out of the bag. What was going on? Everyone screamed with delight. How little for happiness it was necessary for these kids to just pet a dog. And for someone adult to do something unusual just for them. Today was the most amazing day of my life. Because of the freezing rain, it was impossible to walk outside. And we have a whole bag of sand left after the repair. Put it in old, ragged backpack, and a little bit to slowly spill out. So I went for a walk. So many people followed me. One grandmother asked to pave her way to the polyclinic. So many good things I heard today. I am a mother duck. Today, a 9-year-old girl standing in line at the store asked her mother for a chocolate bar. After a few years, she gave up and bought it for her. The girl took a chocolate bar, followed me into the queue, and handed it to a little boy who was crying there. Her mother asked her why she gave him the chocolate bar, and her daughter told her that she had heard the boy's mother tell him that they had no money for almost anything until she could find a job. A kind heart it has been since childhood. All through middle and high school, I was a straight-A student, and classmates I always copied my homework. And I, because of my shyness, could not refuse. But most of all, my roommate stole my tests and homework from me. She was constantly sleeping in Russian and math classes. It's been a long time. Now I have a husband and a daughter, but we live very modestly. My baby showed instability of the cervical vertebrae. I need a massage, but there is no money for it. There is a huge queue for free, and time is very expensive. Recently, I met the same neighbor at the desk. I talked to her. It turns out that after school, she went to her father in another city and got a profession of a massage therapist there. For more than 5 years, he has been practicing massage for infants and sick children. She offered her help. I said, "They say there is no money." In response, she laughed and said, "No, well, you shouldn't have helped me at school or something. My girl has her first session tomorrow. I graduated from university. I work in a large company. Recently, my parents died in an accident, and soon my beloved girl, whom I had been dating for more than 3 years, changed and betrayed me. Life has lost all meaning, despair has come. Got home last night, and the subway was sitting an old man, and played the Beatles. He had a dozen small coins in the box. He listened to the end, put down 100 rubles, and asked if he could play the Beatles' Hallelujah. He started playing, and I stood next to him, closed my eyes, and started singing a song. He played and I sang. My voice is beautiful, in school vocals were doing. And I know almost all the Beatles songs. He finished and opened his eyes. Suddenly there was a whole crowd looking at me. And a small box was already full of different bills. The peasant began to cry. At that moment, I really wanted to live, no matter what. At 6:30 in the morning, I missed the bus, ran after him on. I stopped, waving my arms, but the driver never saw me. Or he didn't want to stop. In general, I was late. Frustrated, I turn around and walk back to the bus stop. A taxi stops here and a conversation takes place. On the bus. "Yes, sit down, let's catch up. There's no money, chief. Purely human." I should have seen the faces of the passengers when I got out of the taxi with poker face and happily transferred to the bus. "Thank you, chief." In a human way. A 5-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy are suitable. I questioned them. It turned out that they were all neighbors. And this baby. Mom sends one to play outside. We live in the city for half a day, and she watches TV. She gave up on the baby. In general, these little neighbors, when they see that his mother took him out into the yard, go and watch him so that nothing happens. The case when children are more responsible adults. Tonight I just killed myself in training. When I was going home, I lay down to take a ride on the tram. The conductor came up to me, suggested that I go to the back of the car, where there was no one, and sleep peacefully there. And she wakes me up at my stop. It seems nothing like that, but it's nice to feel care from a stranger to you. I was standing in the store in the hardware department. A young, very untidy girl came in. I'd say she's a very bum-looking one. She asked me to buy her a bar of soap. She pointed to the cheapest one. Rubles for 7. His eyes were so bright. I gave her 10 rubles. She bought herself this soap. And I involuntarily began to watch her. She walked past the grocery department, hung for a minute, looked at the food with hungry eyes and left. I felt terribly sorry for her. And it's incredibly interesting how such a young girl of 25 years old, the most, could be in such a position. I bought a couple of buns, caught up with her. We sat on the bench. She ate and told me that at the age of 18 she had a boyfriend who persuaded her to move in with him. She, of course, also wanted it, but her mother was a very strict and cruel woman, did not allow her. So, there was a big quarrel in the family. She moved in with a guy. After a while, he became uninterested in her, and he kicked her out. And the mother could not forgive and did not take back. At first I wandered around friends. Then she felt ashamed. She went outside. This story struck me simply. I brought her to my place. We threw out her dirty clothes and treated her head with kerosene. In case there were lice. She washed up, brushed her teeth, and I cut her pretty short because her hair was ruined. She gave money and her old unnecessary things. She was already crying with gratitude. When she left, I called my friends and told them everything. We rented her a dorm room for $1,000 a month. A friend helped her get a job as a cleaner in a shopping center. God, how happy and grateful she was. Then communication with her somehow became less frequent. Got lost in general, over time. And the other day I accidentally met her in the store. She looked very well, recovered, was decently dressed. When she saw me, she screamed with joy, rushed to hug. She's doing fine. A guy appeared. Works as a cashier for now, but I think it's temporary. We're going to the theater with her next week. She bought the tickets herself. He really wants to thank us. I had a neighbor who was an alcoholic, but handy and smart is not the word. She cooked beautifully, knitted, clean. A former teacher. Everyone despised her for this, but my childhood memories are associated with her kindness and humanity. You come home from school, there's no one, you want to eat, but you're afraid to turn on the gas. Call, come running, feed or afford to take it. I can bake pancakes and pies thanks to her. Homework was done together, always remembering her with warmth, and she was all muddied in the city. Today, my 10-year-old son came home from school in a change of shoes. To the question, "Where are the shoes?" he replied that he gave a classmate, who has only one pair of shoes sneakers. Moving away from the shock mixed with surprise, I realized that I was raising a child correctly. I'm coming back from work one day, I was late. The weather is nasty, very cold. It's raining, the phone is dead. In short, a complete set. I go up on the escalator, and there's my mom standing there with 2 umbrellas. Hands. She saw the rain, didn't know what I was wearing. She couldn't get through to me, and came to meet me. An hour and a half stood, peering into the flow of people as the alarm horn. Take care, Mom. I work as a salesman. If the buyers do not have enough 10, 20, 50 rubles, I still sell. I say, okay, then bring it in. You should have seen their happy faces. I went to the pharmacy recently. I didn't have enough 40 rubles for diapers. The pharmacist waved her hand. It's okay, I'll give you a discount later, so there's no need to bring in money. Damn, it turns out so nice. The bus stopped at a bus stop, and some granny began to babble and wail that she had forgotten where she lived. As a result, the driver found her passport in her bag, looked at her place of residence. The bus was still standing and standing. It turned out that she lives 5 minutes away from this stop, but not along the route. The driver asked the passengers if they were against it, and took the grandmother to her house, personally bringing her to the front door. And then he drove on. I wish there were more people like that. I studied at an ordinary school, where my class and a parallel one were divided according to mental abilities. A strong class with a bunch of gifted kids and mine, where there were hopes for me and another girl. Of course, we were bullied, they say, by the nerds. And as a control, we immediately gods. In the 8th grade, my father was hospitalized with a heart attack. It was a shock to me that all these oppressors once rallied and they didn't leave me alone for a minute, even after school. And they called me for a walk, and anything to go to the skating rink, as long as I wasn't left alone. After all these years, I'm still grateful to them for that. We have a bus in our city, in which the driver always wishes the passengers a successful one over the loudspeaker. Good day and good mood. Or if going at lunchtime, and all those who are now going to dine, bon appetit. And it always makes me smile and cheers up. But most of all I am surprised by people who, having twisted their face, start whispering and talking. People, where did you get so much anger from? A person just wants to brighten up this gray day for you a little. One day at work, a woman gave 500 rubles with a brand new bill and hurriedly left. And there were 2 500-ruble bills, stuck together. I ran out, and, handing her the money, I said, "Woman, you have money stuck together." She stood there, smiling, and looked at me, saying nothing. She was shocked that I returned it to her. My colleagues said I was a fool. And there was another case. I was walking in the snow in winter, I saw a phone. Old, turned on, found the name Mom. She called, and said she found the phone. It took a long time to explain, since the speaker apparently was frozen. In general, we agreed to meet. The woman came out poorly dressed. She said that her son's phone number, and that she was very grateful to me, since there was no money for another phone. And shoves me, embarrassed, 50 rubles. I didn't take it. She thanked me endlessly. Although the price of this season phone would not amount to 1,000 rubles. When I told my friends about the situation that evening, everything, what are you? I should have at least asked for a ransom. When I found out what kind of phone it was, I said, oh, of course, I would return it to. Here I am annoyed by such comments. Yes, I would return any phone, and any money is not mine, and it was not mine. There are chances to do good, and I used them. And with joy. In the 8th grade, I got a wonderful shabby chemistry textbook. But where the periodic table is, its valence was signed over each element in advance, the degree of oxidation. Even seems to be the paint mass. This badly lagging table has helped me a lot. Of course, over time, I learned to do without it, but still with warmth. In the corner, there was a picture of a man, bending in a courteous half-bow. Thank you, my hero. A 5-year-old daughter got lost, carried milk to a yard cat, and disappeared. My husband and I found her only 2.5 hours later. I was sitting on a bench in the yard of the neighboring residential complex. A man sat next to her and gave her water from a bottle. The husband angrily hit him several times, wanted to drag him to the police. Yet calmed Roskayevshisha daughter, the man disappeared. At home, it turned out that the kitten had run away. The girl's daughters said they saw him as a whole. Neighboring yards. She went looking and got lost. Her crying came uncle, asked what was the matter, and said, we're not going anywhere, sit in the center of the yard. So we are your mom will quickly find. And when my daughter asked for a drink, I bought her a bottle of water in a shop. Cola is harmful, but Prosek, I don't know, maybe you can't. My husband searched for him for 3 days, apologized, did not find him. I used to have a habit of throwing out garbage, holding the keys to the apartment in the same hand, and then putting them in my bag. So I'm standing one morning. The garbage in the tank is getting light, along with the keys. I'm late for work, spare keys. No keys. And this is a tank that you can't even get into. Tall. Twirled. And then the guy. He's so clean, you can see that he's going to work too. I tell him, help me get into the trash. Of course, he was surprised, but when he found out why, he jumped in and found the keys. Today I was walking from the store, I didn't buy a package. I'm carrying a bottle of milk and a bun in my hands. At the traffic light, some dirty street urchin snatched a bun from my hands and gave it to Dura, so that he almost got hit by a car. I didn't lose my head and ran after him, catching up and holding out to him. Milk? It's tasteless in dry water. I was driving home late at night and stopped on the way near a stall to buy cigarettes. A girl of about 7 years old is sitting at the bus stop and crying. She got on the wrong bus and went to another part of the city. Fortunately, she remembered her home address, and I persuaded her to bring it. The girl was crying, saying that her house will be punished. At the entrance, the girl was guarded by her mother. As soon as she saw her daughter get out of a big black Jeep, she rushed at me. I hope the girl didn't get hurt too much, but they broke the mirror for me. A poor family lives next to me. 6 months ago, I shared part of my work with their daughter. Work on the internet. To -3 hours a day. I gave her part of my salary. It's been 2 months since this job has been gone, and I still can't admit it. She does a job that nobody needs, and I continue to pay her out of my money. And she sincerely believes that she earns, rejoices. I live abroad. There is a reception in our house. There's a security guard sitting there. He doesn't speak English, but always very kind to me. Then he will hold the doors to the elevator, then he will wish good morning, then he will help bring things in. Well, in general, a good-natured peasant. But the people in our house live overeager. Then they will be rude to him, then something else. And I feel sorry for him. I was coming back from a movie tonight, and I had a big bag of popcorn with me. Although I love him myself, I gave him to the guard very much. I saw so much kindness and gratitude, as if popcorn was golden. Earlier, when I was still studying, I was a terrible nerd at school, and liked to leave the correct answers in all textbooks. And also wrote an email there. Suddenly, who needs help? Now I am 22 years old, and messages of thanks come from year to year. So nice. While working at the post office, a girl of 5-6 years old came one day, gave me a letter, 100 rubles in small change, and asked me very much to send it to Santa Claus. I decided to play along so as not to ruin children's dreams and told him to write his address on the letter so that Grandpa would know where to carry the gift and that there is no need to pay money. Letters to Santa Claus are free. She somehow wrote down the address and left. And after the shift ended, I went to the address and gave the letter to my parents. I hope that she will have a real miracle. I work as a sales consultant in a bookstore. We have a lot of soft and comfortable chairs here. Recently, I was walking around the store. I see a girl sitting in the farthest corner with a book and writing something. I approach. She is writing something down in a notebook with a book from our store. Girl, can I help you with something? You will be buying a book. And then she has such sad and pleading eyes. No, please forgive me, I'm just a student, and I don't have any money. In the library there is the right information, and you got just what you need. I have a test coming up. I'll quickly write down what I need and leave, I swear. I took her to the back room so that she could finish writing quietly. I went to the store to buy shoes. While I was trying on shoes, I left my bag near the ottoman. Bought, paid, left. And already in another area of the city. I remembered that I forgot my bag in the store. I came back quickly. I ran into the store, and there was a guy sitting there with my bag. He stopped me and gave it to me. He said he was waiting for me to come back. Later, when I opened the bag, I found a chocolate bar that says, "For a forgetful girl, in a blue dress, I've been wanting to all day." At the age of 10, she became infected with lichen from a cat. During the treatment, they were shorn to bald. Summer ran in a scarf, but school began. I roared for a long time, knowing that they would mock me. And here is the first day of school. At recess, the first handsome school authority sits down and asks to show his hairstyle. Realizing that one way or another, the handkerchief would be torn off me, I decided to take it off myself. The boy looked at my barely grown hedgehog, loudly declared to the whole class, "And you have a beautiful head, and your hair is also cool, and you don't need a handkerchief." Thank you. My young man works as a bartender in a well-known institution. There is face control and strictly no children. Yesterday he told me that before the shift started, a girl of 6-7 years old came into the bar. I asked to go to the toilet. I let her go. And then a whole string of babies came for her. It turned out that the children were from an orphanage. Excursions. My compassionate invited all the guys to the bar together with the head. I chatted with everyone and gave free soda to drink. The teacher brought him a chocolate bar later. My golden one is roaring with emotion. We went for mushrooms once, wandered through the forest, found 2 dead neighbors. Disappointed and stomped to the road. Suddenly a fake peasant appears, looked at us with a frown and, holding out a full package of chanterelles, said, "I don't need it. I came for cranberries in general." I watched today a picture of how we cynically drink from fast food. A homeless woman who wanted to buy food was kicked out. She even showed me the money, but they told her that she stinks all over the restaurant. And just kicked out. She didn't look like an alcoholic. I couldn't help myself. I bought her 6 burgers with all the money I had in my pocket, and gave it away. She burst into tears. A person, no matter what he is, always remains a person of the society of capitalism. My mother, an altruist, constantly helps everyone for free. Often spends his money for this. A couple of years ago, homeless people settled in the entrance. She met them for some reason. I helped with food, learned their life stories. Someone was maimed and robbed. Someone was cheated out of property. On his own initiative, with great difficulty, recovered their documents. They were able to start working, someone to socialize. Or here, for example, she helped 2 sisters. The old ladies should publish their memoirs, which do not carry much value. Just says, "Little old ladies wanted the manuscript is not lost." It's a pity for them, they tried. Now she works as a nurse in a nursing home. There are a lot of dying, useless blind and sick old people there. Takes care of them. She has accumulated 1,000 such stories throughout her life, for which she is often condemned. After all, she spends time, nerves, money, and for what it is unclear. And she can't otherwise get high from helping others. Recently, these old sisters took and gave her a cool mink, a fur coat. They hardly walk anymore, they don't need it. And once they wanted to open her apartment. So those familiar homeless people came running, piled up the robbers, and voluntarily stood at the door for almost a whole month. So that the incident would not happen again. The good always comes back. We moved to another city with our children a month ago. We are used to clean streets and playgrounds. And here it's a nightmare. Not a playground for children, but a garbage dump. Not a park, but a dump of bottles. As a result, I bought a roll of garbage bags, gloves, and every day together with the children of 3 and 5. For years, the selected site was cleaned. 3 days later, a woman joined us. A day later, another one. Now we have a whole team, and it's very nice to look at clean streets. Now I plan to take up the cleanliness of the entrance. My dad gets into different situations all the time. Here 2 years ago, it was raining in winter, and the snow was just terrible. It goes through garages, there are blockages in general. Suddenly he hears someone crying and calling, "Uncle, help." He went to the voice, and there in the snowdrift between the garages, the boy fell through and can't get out. My dad goes to him, and falls through the thigh himself. Let's clean up everything with our hands. Dolez? Barely pulled it out. The boy is for him. I can't feel my legs. Dad him. The boy showed the way to his house. And there his mother is already at the entrance. Everyone is looking for the boy. His parents immediately called an ambulance in tears. I froze my feet off. They offered money to Dad, but he didn't take anything. And next summer, he walks across the football field, and there that boy screams, "This uncle is a hero, he saved my legs." Everyone can be a hero. The main thing is, do not pass by someone else's misfortune. About 3 months ago, I told a strange guy that he had an unbuttoned pocket on his backpack. And there were a lot of important and expensive things lying there. After these 3 months, we accidentally met eyes in the subway, and he waved to me. How nice that people remember you and your actions. Worked in a taxi. Night, winter, snowstorm. Grandma is coming, he offered me a ride. I couldn't get into the car myself. She spent a long time remembering where she lived. I asked leading questions. Which store does he go to? A pharmacy. Barely found. It turned out that she was walking in the opposite direction. Then I remembered the apartment number for a long time. I rang the intercom. Grandfather came out without a leg to meet her. It took 5 hours. Of course, I didn't take the money, although my grandfather was very persistent. Still think she would be able to get home. Wi-Fi at home without a password. I live on the 2nd floor. When I go out to smoke on the balcony, I constantly see Uzbeks. Janitors are sitting, rummaging through phones, and all at one point. I decided to check if my network is being stolen. Went, checked, mine. I thought I'd turn it off, because it's no big deal. Then I saw one of them talking to his daughter on Skype. In general, I left it. Some guy fell asleep on my shoulder on the bus today. And it would be all right if I didn't have to go out. When I tried to wake him up, he mumbled sleepily, "Yes, Mom, but a little more, I'm definitely not going to be late." I stroked his head and drove with him a couple more stops. I'm coming home from work one day. There is no money and no mood. I look, the wallet is there. I raised it, and there's 50,000. I got through to the owner using bank cards through his work. This man was crying when I returned the wallet. He turned out to be a widower. He has 2 sons. One is studying at school, the other at uni. He was going to pay his son for the semester, and dropped it through a hole in his jacket pocket. We talked to him for life, and it came to an understanding that it happens worse than mine. He came to me, bought sweets for the last one, not regretting that he did the right thing. I recently sat on a bench in the park, eating a bun. Autumn, cold, and then sits down to me a typical homeless person. There are not many benches in the square. He is lightly dressed, but he looks quite decent for a homeless person. And it doesn't stink with alcohol. Sitting, silent. And then, in the best traditions of cinema, I silently hand him a piece of bread. He also silently takes it, nods, and begins to eat. We sit, we shiver, we eat a bun, but we feel good. On my birthday, guy made me the greatest gift what you could only dream of. No, it wasn't an iPhone, a tzatziki or a bouquet of 100-500 roses. He paid for expensive treatment for my cat, thereby saving his life, the most generous gift that I received. A week ago, I was standing at the bus stop and waiting for the bus. At that moment, a drunk man with a puppy on a leash was crossing the road. He walked very fast, almost dragging the puppy on the ground. He whined, but did not stop wagging his tail and keeping up with the owner. The man went to the store and tied the puppy at the entrance. When he wanted to follow him, the man kicked him hard. It made me angry. I untied the puppy, put it in a backpack, and ran home. Mom has dreamed of a puppy all her life. Now the plush miracle lives with us. We will not allow anyone to raise a hand against him. And tomorrow we're moving to another city, so no one will find us. When I was about 8 years old, we had a cat. There were 6 beautiful kittens, and my grandmother wanted to drown them all, because we don't need them. The next day, early in the morning, I put them all in a box and went to the bus stop, where I distributed them all. I gave it away for free, but someone gave me a little money. When I came home, I was strongly scolded for leaving alone, and I knew that I had done everything right. I will never kill animals, and I will not let my children. About 2 in the morning I sleep. I heard a rustle outside the window, went outside. You never know, opening a bush, I saw such a picture. A big, red, beautiful fox lies, and she drank the milk of 2 baby fox. It is clear that they were just born. I wonder where in my yard turned out to be a fox, but still with the cubs. A little later, I noticed a wound on her stomach. I took her and the 2 foxes in my arms. The fox did not resist. The wound bandaged. They have been living with us for a month. The fox got over it, she got used to it. To us and our house. Alicata smart and cute. It's funny to watch the faces of the neighbors when they find out that we have 3 forests living. There was a glass grandfather who was blind instead of realize, who had a dog for water. The Rottweiler breed. The dog is insanely smart, you know. For this grandfather, he was a real friend, always protected. 7-year-old kid decided to laugh at grandpa and take his stick. The dog, of course, growled, but no more. Immediately the mother jumped out, attacked the dog, began to attack the grandfather. I jumped out of the car and the club. Fucked up mom and son. A criminal record is shining, but I don't regret anything. My wife left me. I was driving from work with 2 shifts. I was almost asleep, my eyes were blinding. Hit a dog, couldn't drive, leave. When I bent down to her, I saw her eyes, I cried myself. He dragged me to the clinic, gave me half of his salary, put a plaster on his paws, said he would live. The Barbos is huge. While he was dragging into the apartment, he almost died himself. And he put his head on my shoulder. The wife said you wanted a fur coat and a normal guy. In short, she left. And I don't know, maybe it will be my first new year. With a really close and loyal friend. I keep a small shelter for homeless animals. There is simply no money in such establishments. Sometimes people bring food, sterilize it almost for free. But you also need to treat those injured in an accident. And just from human cruelty. All my wards have titanium prostheses or strollers instead of missing paws. I'm not a millionaire. No. The shelter is located on the highway at the exit of the city, where girls of easy virtue always hang out. These people often come to us to warm up, take a break, drink coffee, and leave money for a new one. Pause. Summer, late evening. I walk home past St. Isaac's Cathedral, and see a down duck on the roadway. Still alive, lying kicking. They drive by cars. Well, I picked her up. What to do? I got into the vet. The doctor looked at it and said, it's a little broken, but it will live. We're going to put on a cast now. In general, so far, yes, I've been busy almost all night. In the morning, my girlfriend leaves me with a scandal. Like, where have you been hanging around all night? Probably on women and all that. In short, I don't have a girlfriend now. But there's a duck living in the bathroom. Its mother is in a cast. I'm standing at a bus stop in winter. The frost is dark. I have 20 more people with me. One madam stands out in stilettos in a fur coat. Fashionable hairstyle, makeup, perfume, everything. And next to the bus stop, a yard cat cries from the frost. Rubs next to people, shouts. And then this madam with the words, well, go warm up. He takes off his gloves, takes the cat in his arms, warms the cat's ears. And then he unzips his fur coat, and hugs the cat to him. And I such a good and right it in the head would not come. This story happened to me about 5 years ago. At that time I was 22 years old. I was walking home with the guys one day, it was already dark enough. And passing by one yard, I hear a howl, so much so that it became scary. I run to the sounds, and there's a boy processing a cat, and I came at the moment when the cat didn't have a paw. The first thing that caught my eye was a stick. I run into this kid screaming, until he realized what was happening. The cat managed to roll away. And this kid ran away. I approach the animal, alive. I pick it up and run to the vet. So, today it is exactly 5 years since Hosea has been living at my house. And with his appearance in my life, as soon as something goes wrong, this cat should pat my hand with his one front paw. I do not know what kind of magic sign it is and how it works, but everything immediately becomes good. And you also knew that cats can smile. Mine certainly can. I live in Siberia, and we have winter here, God willing, and snowdrifts, and -30. Everything is as it should be. I'm walking my dog, and then she disappears from sight. I look, rummaging in a snowdrift. I come up and hear some kind of squeak. My heart sank in my heel when I found a bag of puppies there. Bullets fly home, and there's a 6-year-old son. We take the poor guy out of the bag to our dead. The son shouts, "No, no, they're just frozen." And he began to carry out some manipulations with them, rubbing, doing something. And they showed signs of life. I think I'm raising a good person. My father drank terribly all his life. Every day he made scandals and ruffled our nerves. In a fit of anger, he grabbed our cat and threw it from the 3rd floor. Fortunately, the cat remained alive. Mom decided to at least give the cat to someone. One man asked why they give. She also told the truth. They say, at least she won't torture the cat. The next day, this man arrived in a truck. He says, "Take the cat and your things." And they all went to live with me. So, this man has been my real father for 10 years. I was 12 years old. My 2 classmates and I were walking home from school, living in the same house. At the entrance, they saw a kitten lying on the floor. They thought it was already dead. And while waiting for the elevator, we heard the squeak of the poor animal. He was alive, and his eyes showed how he was suffering, and humbly waiting for death. I've never really liked cats, but this kitten caused pity for all 3 of them. Took it, and the 3 friends took her to the veterinary hospital. By the way, she was not close, and her parents forbade her to go so far from home. While waiting for the veterinarian, people who saw 3 children with this kitten in their arms left money for his treatment. As much as I could, who in the 100, one of 500, and some more. He had a broken rib that pierced a lung, 2 broken hind legs. Mom, of course, swore for a long time that we picked up an animal from the street, but still he was cured. It's been 7 years, and every time I come home, my pet runs into my arms. When I was a small child, loved dogs, but parents are not allowed to have. And a year ago, something jumped and took a dog from the street, washed, combed, vaccinated. All the relatives were against it. They said that it would be better to put him to sleep and that the dog was rabid. And I didn't fall for it. Now I'm 24, and I have a huge animal sanctuary. It's so joyful at heart when they are taken home. My grandfather somehow got the cubs out of a hole on which a boulder had slid. The rains were heavy, the ground sank. At first I wanted to kill, the wolves pressed the cattle hard, but I regretted it. Their mother whined like a dog pitifully. In the same winter, he was covered by an avalanche, and he was dug up by a wolf, which his grandfather initially took for a search dog. Of course, the beast wasn't going to save him, rather eat him, but he didn't. He sniffed and ran away. It wasn't that wolf, and it wasn't her cubs. Just a passing wolf. Just like that, the good came back. One day I was walking from the supermarket, 2 homeless people drove up. "Give us a bottle of vodka for the kitten, or we'll throw it under your wheels." The kitten is almost an adult cat. Well, I think, fuck you, I feel sorry for the cat. By the evening, 3 things had become clear. I'm allergic. A kitten, IDS to cat, is 2-3 months old. Just a breed of Minkin. According to the announcement, a family with children arrived an hour later. They gave me 500 euros. This is exactly the color they wanted to hide. Very happy. I treat allergies. As a child, they lived in a private house. Mom really wanted to get a watchman's dog. One winter we stand at a bus stop. We see a healthy red cat. Mom took pity on him, gave him a bun, and he took it in his teeth and ran under the bench. We look in, and there's a tiny puppy trembling all over. The cat was feeding him. Well, Mom, without thinking twice, takes the puppy home. I felt so sorry for the cat. I say, the cat is all alone now. Let's take it. Mom refused. We arrived home. Mom stood for 2 minutes and thought, says, "Stay at home and leave." Half an hour later, she returned with the redhead. 2 weeks ago, some inhumans threw out a young shepherd dog near the house. The dog was in a terrible state. My husband and I decided to take the dog into the house. We live in the private sector. God, it's such a joy to see a downtrodden dog change right before your eyes. He stopped being afraid of every sound, began to wag his tail, stopped grabbing food, as if he was being fed for the last time. And most importantly, the terribly protruding ribs disappeared. This is the 2nd dog from the street in our house. Almost all my friends and family said I was crazy. And for me it's not a burden, for me it's a joy. My mother and I take hedgehogs out of the grove next to the house every spring. The tradition began 5 years ago, when we found 4 hedgehogs in a week, 2 burned, 1 slaughtered to death and 1 half dead, who, apparently, played football. We take them to the country. There's a forest nearby, where people almost don't go. I'm sorry to take them away from their habitual habitat, but finding their corpses is simply unbearable. And the half-dead one settled under our dacha. Leaves, meats when we arrive. He eats from his hands and is called Athanasius. I go to school in chainmail. Carbon monoxide stories from school.